went on a bus, they returned on a bus. They are safe, the ordeal is over. The 26 school children from Chowchilla, kidnapped late Thursday afternoon while riding on their school bus, were found at 8:30 last night in a Livermore rock quarry. Their abductors, 3 masked gunmen, had held them and their 55-year-old school bus driver prisoners in a damp underground cavern for more than 16 hours, but now they had come home. Weary but somewhat matter-of-fact as only children can be after such a tedious and frightening experience. Coming home. In the midst of all this attention, the youngsters ranging in age from 5 to 15 were relatively nonchalant, tumbling from the big red and white and blue Greyhound bus, managing even casual smiles as they walked a short distance from their Greyhound bus, through a pressing crowd of well-wishers, friends, townspeople, to the arms of their waiting parents for a brief private meeting, a reunion that happened in a bus station waiting room behind a closed door. There was laughter, hugs, kisses, tears, the ending of a bizarre but still unexplained 36-hour mass kidnapping of the school children from Chowchilla. Throughout the ordeal, the parents had waited. It was all that they could do.
On a sweltering July afternoon in 1976, the children of Chowchilla, California, were living what should have been the perfect summer day. 26 kids, ages 5 through 14, had just finished splashing and laughing at the local fairgrounds swimming pool. Their beloved bus driver, 55-year-old Frank Edward Ray, whom everyone simply called Ed, was driving them home on the familiar route through the quiet farming community. Ed had been driving these same roads for over 20 years, and the children trusted him completely. He was more than just their driver. He was their protector, their friend, and for many, a father figure who made sure each child got home safely every single day. But as the yellow school bus wound its way down Avenue 21, something was terribly wrong. A white van suddenly appeared, blocking the road ahead. Ed slowed the bus to a stop, expecting the van to move. Instead, 3 armed men emerged, their faces covered by nylon stockings. 26 children ages 5 through 14 and their bus driver were on their way home from summer school when they were taken hostage at gunpoint. The nightmare had begun. The 3 kidnappers, Frederick Newhall Woods IV, 24, and brothers James and Richard Schoenfeld, 24 and 22 respectively, had been planning this for months. Frederick Newhall Woods IV, 24, and brothers James Schoenfeld, 24, and Richard Schoenfeld, 22, held them captive. They forced Ed and the terrified children off the bus at gunpoint, herding them into 2 cramped vans. The children clung to each other, some crying, others too shocked to make a sound. Ed tried to comfort them, whispering reassurances even as his own heart pounded with fear. For 11 agonizing hours, the vans drove through the California countryside. The men, who were asking for $5 million in ransom, drove them around for 11 hours. The air inside the vans grew stifling. 6-year-old Larry Park would later remember, it was just stifling. The children had no idea where they were going or what would happen to them. Some fell asleep from exhaustion. Others remained wide awake, gripping Ed's hand or holding onto their friends. As dawn broke on July 16th, the vans finally stopped at a remote rock quarry near Livermore, about 100 miles from home. What the children saw next would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The kidnappers had dug a hole 12 feet deep and buried an old moving van inside it. One by one, they forced the children and Ed down into the darkness. Bus driver Ed Ray and the children were taken out of the van, one by one, and sent down into a hole. They soon learned they were inside an old truck trailer and they had been buried 12 feet underground. The buried van measured just 26.5 feet long by 8 feet wide. Barely enough space for 27 people to exist, let alone survive. After sealing the hole, the kidnappers fled, leaving their hostages buried alive in a 26.5 by 8.2 foot area for 16 harrowing hours. The kidnappers had made crude toilets in the wheel wells and left some food and water, but the air was already growing thin. They piled dirt, rocks, and heavy batteries on top of the hatch, sealing their victims underground like a tomb. For 16 hours, 27 people lived in that suffocating darkness. The younger children cried for their mothers. The older ones tried to stay calm, but panic was setting in. The air grew thicker and more difficult to breathe. Ed Ray knew that if they didn't escape soon, they would all die down there. But how could they possibly move the tons of debris that trapped them below ground? The answer came from an unlikely hero, 14-year-old Michael Marshall. However, The children and the driver made a miraculous escape, thanks to the heroism of one of the child hostages, 14-year-old Michael Marshall. While the adults despaired, Michael studied the ceiling of their underground prison. He noticed that the batteries and debris weren't perfectly sealed. Working with Ed Ray and the older children, they began stacking mattresses to reach the hatch. After several hours, Ray and the older children stacked the mattresses to reach the hatch. As Ray lifted the hatch, 14-year-old Michael Marshall wedged a piece of wood into the opening, moved the sheet metal and batteries, and dug away the remainder of the debris covering the entrance. Hour by hour, they worked in shifts. Ed Ray, despite his age, used every ounce of his strength to lift the heavy hatch while Michael and the older boys moved batteries and dug through dirt with their bare hands. The smaller children passed debris bucket by bucket, everyone working together with the desperate knowledge that their lives depended on it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they saw something that brought tears to their eyes, a tiny sliver of sunlight. One by one, they climbed out of their underground tomb. Ed Ray made sure every single child escaped before he emerged himself, just as he had protected them on the bus route every day. The children and their bus driver returned safely to Chowchilla by a police-escorted bus shortly before dawn on July 17, 1976. They had been missing for 27 hours, and their families had feared the worst. The FBI quickly tracked down the 3 kidnappers who had planned to demand $5 million in ransom but never got the chance to make their demands. The empty school bus had been found hidden under bamboo and brush, covered with bamboo and brush in a drainage ditch 9 miles west of town, but with no sign of the children or their driver. The worst was feared. The Chowchilla kidnapping became the largest kidnapping in United States history, but it was also a story of incredible survival against impossible odds. Ed Ray lived to be 91 years old, forever celebrated as a hero in his community. The city of Chowchilla named a park after him, honoring the man who never gave up on his children even in their darkest hour. Michael Marshall, the teenager whose quick thinking and courage helped save 27 lives, proved that heroes come in all ages. The psychological scars from those 27 hours underground lasted far longer than the physical ordeal. Many of the children struggled with nightmares, anxiety, and trauma that followed them into adulthood. But they also carried with them something else: the knowledge that when faced with unimaginable terror, they had found strength in each other, courage in their bus driver, and hope in a 14-year-old boy who refused to let them die in the darkness. The 3 kidnappers were eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison. By 2022, all 3 kidnappers had been paroled, a fact that Ed Ray fought against until his death in 2012. He believed they should never be freed after what they had put those children through. Today, the Chowchilla kidnapping stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of ordinary people to do extraordinary things when faced with evil. It reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they drive school buses, and sometimes they're just 14 years old with dirty hands and an unbreakable will to survive.